All right, where to start? I guess I'll just dive right in. I'm Ellie, your typical 26-year-old with a job that keeps me on my toes and a love life that's actually, surprisingly, the best part of my day. That's all thanks to Jack, my fiancé. He popped the question 3 months ago, and I still get giddy thinking about it. We've set the date, and the wedding's supposed to be this big, beautiful bash in 3 months. But man, planning a wedding is like having another full-time job. So there's me, excited and stressed in equal parts. Then there's Jack, the man of the hour, who's just as swamped at his job as I am at mine. We're the dynamic duo, trying to juggle spreadsheets and seating charts, conference calls, and cake tastings. One evening, after a particularly long day, Jack and I were slumped on our couch, our living room littered with brochures and to-do lists. "Ellie," Jack said, rubbing his eyes, "how are we going to manage all this?" I shrugged, feeling the weight of exhaustion. "I don't know, Jack. Maybe we should just elope." Jack chuckled. "Tempting, but you know you want the big family shindig." He wasn't wrong. I did want the big do. Family, friends, the whole 9 yards. But at that moment, it felt like climbing a mountain without any gear. The next day, Dad called. He's been my rock since Mom passed away when I was 6. And since then, it's been him and me, until Vivian, my stepmom, came into the picture. I'd like to say we were the picture-perfect family, but that'd be a stretch. "Ellie, how's the wedding prep going?" Dad's voice was full of that fatherly concern that meant he was about to offer advice I probably didn't want. I sighed into the phone. "It's going, Dad. Slow, but going." There was a pause, and I knew something was up. "Listen, sweetheart, I've been thinking. Vivian could help you out. She's got a knack for organizing events and such." I paused, a little taken aback. Vivian and I had a civil but cold relationship. The idea of her helping with the most important day of my life was unsettling. I'm not sure that's a great idea, Dad," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. But before I could add anything else, Vivian's voice was suddenly on the line. "Ellie, darling, I overheard. I'd love to help with the wedding. It'll be fabulous, you'll see." Her voice was sweet, too sweet, like syrup over poison ivy. But Dad was giving me a give her a chance look through the phone. I could feel it. "Thanks, Vivian. That's really generous," I said, with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Jack, who'd overheard the conversation, gave me a raised eyebrow. "Are you sure about this?" he mouthed. I shook my head, mouthing back, "Nope. But what choice do I have?" So that was that. Vivian was on board as our wedding planner. Jack squeezed my hand, a silent show of support. I squeezed back, hoping I wasn't just handing over the keys to a bulldozer ready to take down my dream day. But hey, that's the risk you take when you're trying to pull off the biggest party of your life, with a 9 to 5 that's more like a 5 to 9. Fingers crossed, right? Vivian entered the picture when I was just 6, a little while after Mom died. Dad was grieving and, I guess, lonely. So when Vivian came along with her big smiles and bigger promises, he fell for it. I wanted to be happy for him, really, I did. But there was something about Vivian that set off my 6-year-old alarm bells. I remember the day she moved in. I was playing with my dolls in what used to be Mom's garden, and she came out, all dolled up and looking at me like I was a spot on her perfect dress. "Ellie, darling, why don't you play inside? You're getting all dirty out here," she said in that voice that pretended to care, but didn't really. I just stared at her, clutching my doll tighter. "Mom liked it when I played here. She said the flowers needed my laughter." Vivian had this little twitch of a frown before plastering on a smile. "Well, I'm sure your mom also liked you clean and tidy. Come on, let's find you something less messy to do." It didn't get better from there. Not long after, Lara was born. And don't get me wrong, I love my little sister more than anything. But with Lara's arrival, I became more of a nuisance than a daughter to Vivian. I sat on my far-off room bed, the one that had been pushed aside to make space for Lara's nursery. Dad knocked and came in, sitting beside me with a worried look. "Ellie, you haven't been spending much time with Vivian and Lara," Dad said gently. "Don't you want to get to know your sister?" I nodded, fiddling with the edge of my bedspread. "I do, Dad. It's just Vivian doesn't really want me around." Dad's brow creased. What makes you say that? It was hard to put into words. The way Vivian's presence made the air heavier, made the house less of a home. She's always telling me to go play somewhere else, to stay quiet, to not bother you or Lara. Dad hugged me then, tight. Ellie, Vivian just wants what's best for all of us. Give her some time, you'll see. But time didn't change much. As we grew up, Lara got everything shiny and new, while I got her hand-me-downs and gently used stuff from secondhand stores. One day I finally asked Vivian about it. Vivian, why does Lara get new clothes and I don't? I was older then, more aware of the discrepancies. She looked down at me, her eyes cool and detached. Ellie, I just think it's important for you to learn to be grateful for what you have. Lara is, well, she's younger. She needs to feel special. But I want to feel special too, I murmured, more to myself than to her. Vivian didn't respond to that, just turned away with that air of finality that ended all discussions. I learned then that some battles just weren't worth fighting. Not then, at least. So, when Dad suggested Vivian help with the wedding, all those years of being second best, of feeling like an outsider in my own home, they all bubbled up. But Dad was looking at me with hopeful eyes, and I just couldn't say no. Not to him. All right, Dad, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Let's see what Vivian can do. Planning a wedding is tough, right? Try doing it with someone who's got their own idea of what your big day should look like. Vivian was like a whirlwind, swooping in with her planners and swatches, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We sat at the kitchen table one afternoon, surrounded by what looked like a stationery store's exploded inventory. Vivian was flipping through a binder that had more tabs than my browser after a night of online shopping. So, Ellie, she began, not looking up from her binder, I was thinking we should go with a winter wonderland theme. White, ice blue, a hint of silver. Elegant, sophisticated. I bit my lip. Actually, Jack and I were hoping for something more colorful. Warm colors, you know? It's a celebration, not a gala. Vivian finally looked up, her smile tight. Darling, trust me, the winter theme is very in vogue right now. It'll be beautiful. I tried to push back a little. But it's our wedding, not a trend show. We want it to feel personal. She sighed, as if I were a child who didn't understand the concept of money. Fine, give me your ideas, and I'll see what I can do to make them tasteful. Ouch. That stung. But I pressed on, outlining the vision Jack and I had. Lots of greens, deep reds, like an enchanted forest. I even had a Pinterest board ready to show her. Vivian scrolled through my phone, her face unreadable. Charming, she said flatly. I'll take it into consideration. That was Vivian speak for, I'll do what I want. I should have known then that things weren't going to go smoothly. Jack seemed to sense it too when I told him about our discussion. He frowned, wrapping an arm around my shoulder. You sure you want to go through with this? We can still do it ourselves, or get a professional. I shook my head. Dad's already stressed with work, and I don't want to pile on. Plus, how bad can it be? Famous last words, right? The next few weeks were a blur of work and wedding chaos. Vivian would call me at random times, rattling off decisions she'd made. Ellie, I've booked the church and the reception hall, and I found the perfect caterer. Who needs a tasting, right? Oh, and I took the liberty of choosing your dress. You'll love it. I'd blink, trying to process her words while my boss waved at me to join a meeting. Thanks, Vivian, but shouldn't I try on the dress first? There's no time, she'd insist. It's all under control. But it didn't feel under control. It felt like I was being steamrolled by a smile and a clipboard. The crunch came with the guest list. Jack and I had spent nights agonizing over it, making sure no one was left out. I handed the list to Vivian on a Sunday, our only day off together. Here's the final list. It's got everyone on it. Vivian glanced at it and tutted. This is far too many people, Ellie. We'll have to cut it down. Quality over quantity. My heart sank. But these are our friends and family. We can't just not invite them. Vivian patted my hand, her rings cold against my skin. Leave it to me. I'll handle it. I should have grabbed that list and run. I should have said something, done something. But I was tired, and a part of me, maybe the part that still wanted to believe in good old stepmom magic, thought it might be okay. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The wedding day dawned bright and clear, the kind of day you'd order out of a catalog. I woke up with those pre-wedding jitters, you know? Butterflies doing a tap dance in my stomach. Jack sent me a text that just said, "Today's the day we've been waiting for. I love you." That should have been enough to calm the storm inside me. I should have been greeted by a room bustling with bridesmaids and the usual pre-wedding chaos. But instead, I found myself staring into the mirror in a quiet room, alone. Lara was supposed to be here by now, and my friends. Where was everyone? My phone buzzed, and it was Lara, sounding like she was on the verge of tears. "Ellie, I'm so sorry. I'm running late. The hairdresser had a mix-up with the time, and now they're rushing to get us all done." I took a deep breath. "It's okay, Lara. Just get here when you can, okay?" "Of course, Ellie. I wouldn't miss this for the world," Lara said, her voice firm with sisterly resolve. I put the phone down and tried to focus on getting ready. The dress was beautiful, even if I hadn't picked it out. Vivian had taste, I'd give her that. But it was the silence that got to me. The lack of laughter, the missing chit-chat. It didn't feel like a wedding morning. It felt like any other day, except I was putting on a really fancy dress. By the time I got to the church, my heart was racing, not from excitement, but from a creeping sense of dread. Jack's reassuring smile from across the aisle was the only thing that kept me from bolting. The church should have been packed. Instead, there were gaps in the pews like missing teeth. Whispers echoed off the high ceilings, filling the spaces where our friends and family should have been. Vivian was flitting about, pretending to adjust flowers that didn't need adjusting. I cornered her just before the music started. "Vivian, where is everyone?" I asked, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. She gave me that plastic smile, the one that never quite made it to her eyes. "Oh, darling, I'm afraid there must have been some sort of postal error. A lot of invitations got returned. So unfortunate." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Postal error? How does that even happen nowadays? Did you even send them out?" Vivian looked around, then leaned in close. "These things happen, Ellie. It's out of our hands. Let's not make a scene. It's your day to shine." But shine for whom? The empty seats? The quiet where there should have been joy? I stood there, the organ music starting up, and I realized this was it. The day I dreamed of was starting to look like a nightmare. Jack's eyes met mine from across the church, a silent question in their depths. I squared my shoulders. No way was I letting Vivian's mistakes, or sabotage, a nasty little voice whispered, ruin the day I'd marry the man I loved. When we got to the reception, my heart sank even lower. The place looked like someone's idea of a bad joke. The colors, the decorations, it was all wrong. It was like walking into a different couple's wedding. Where were the rich colors, the warm ambience we wanted? Jack squeezed my hand as we stood at the entrance, taking it all in. "Hey, it's unique," he said, trying to find a silver lining. But his eyes couldn't hide his disappointment. I tried to laugh it off. Unique is one word for it. We found Vivian, who was directing the staff with more enthusiasm than a game show host. "Vivian!" I called out, marching over. "What happened here? This isn't what we talked about." Vivian turned, her eyebrows raising in mock surprise. "Oh, Ellie, you're here! Well, I just thought this would be so much more exquisite. It's very chic, don't you think?" "Chic?" I echoed, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "We wanted warm and welcoming, not this ice palace." Some of the guests turned to look, their expressions a mix of curiosity and discomfort. Vivian's eyes darted to them, and her tone shifted to a soothing whisper. "Let's not get upset, darling. Today is about you and Jack. Let's not spoil it with decor disagreements." I felt Jack's hand on my back, a gentle reminder. He leaned in and whispered, "Let's just get through this, for us." So we did. We put on our best smiles, greeted the few guests, and tried to make the best of it. Then came the moment for the cake cutting. Only there was no cake. Just an empty table with a knife lying there like a lone soldier after a battle. "Vivian," I said slowly, feeling numb. "Where's the cake?" She blinked, then clapped a hand to her mouth. "Oh, the cake! I knew I forgot something. Silly me, I must have missed that detail." Jack's aunt, who'd had more than her fair share of the bubbly, piped up from a nearby table. "No cake? At a wedding? Now I've seen everything." The room erupted into whispers and murmurs. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I wasn't going to give Vivian the satisfaction of seeing me cry. It was Laura, bless her, who saved the day. She slipped out quietly, and before we knew it, she was back with an armful of boxes. "We'll have cake," she declared, setting the boxes on the table and starting to arrange the assorted pastries with a flourish. "Let's call it a dessert buffet, shall we?" The guests applauded, some out of support, others probably because it was the most entertainment they'd had all day. The reception was teetering on the edge of disaster, but Laura's quick thinking with the cakes from the pastry shop had given it a heartbeat again. Watching her rush back in with those boxes, I felt a mix of gratitude and something like pride. She was the little sister who'd watched and learned from all the nonsense Vivian put me through, always ready to jump in. "Where did you find these?" I asked, peeking into the boxes filled with eclairs, tarts, and cupcakes. Laura was all action, arranging them with a flourish. "There's a little shop down the street. I just told them it was for my sister's wedding, and they packed up everything sweet they had." I hugged her, maybe a little too tightly. "You're amazing, you know that?" She grinned, wiping her hands on her apron. "I do now. Go on. Enjoy your party. I've got this." And she did. Guests started milling around the table, picking out their desserts. There was laughter and chatter, the warm sounds of a wedding reception that had been missing before. Jack leaned over to me, a chocolate cupcake in hand. "Your sister's something else," he said with a chuckle. "Yeah, she is," I agreed, the tension in my shoulders easing just a bit. The party started to feel like a party, even if it was nothing like we planned. People were smiling, dancing, and the room was filled with the clinking of glasses and the soft buzz of conversation. As Jack and I mingled with our guests, thanking them for coming, my dad pulled me aside. He looked stern, the way he did when he meant business. "Ellie, your stepmom. She's been acting odd all day. Are you sure everything's okay?" I sighed. "I don't know, Dad. It's like everything's gone wrong on purpose." He put an arm around me. "We'll talk about this later, okay? For now, just focus on Jack and the good parts of today." I nodded, knowing he was right. But as the evening wound down, I caught snatches of a conversation that made my blood run cold. Vivian was on the phone, tucked away in a corner. I only heard a bit of it, but it was enough. Couldn't stand the thought of her happy day. Yes, I did it. And I'd do it again. Yes, that's exactly what I suspected, but still these words were like a punch in the gut. I hurried to tell Dad about the overheard conversation. The night could have been a total wash, but it turned out pretty okay in the end. And as Jack and I swayed to the music, his forehead pressed against mine, I realized that this was all I needed. The love of my life, my loyal sister, and a room full of second-choice desserts that somehow tasted better than any wedding cake ever could. After the half-hearted toasts and the uneasy laughter had died down, my father cornered Vivian near the coat room. I could tell by the tightness in his jaw and the stiff set of his shoulders that the truth I feared was finally coming to light. "Vivian, what the hell happened today?" Dad's voice was a low rumble of contained fury. "Ellie told me what you said. You deliberately ruined her wedding?" Vivian's face twisted into something ugly, a snarl that I had never seen before. "Yes, I did. I've always hated her. She's nothing but a reminder of what was here before me. Her perfect life, her perfect wedding. It's more than I could stand." I felt like I'd been slapped. The venom in her voice was almost palpable. My father, though, he turned an alarming shade of red. "Hated my daughter? My daughter?" His voice rose, and people nearby started to turn and look. "You're her stepmother. You promised to take care of her as your own." Vivian scoffed, and her laughter was a bitter sound. "Take care of her? I've had to live in her shadow, Tom. Every single day. Well, not anymore. I won't let her have a perfect day if it's the last thing I do." "That's it," Dad said, his voice now shaking with anger. "I'm done. Our marriage is over, Vivian. The crowd had hushed, all eyes on the unfolding drama. Vivian seemed to deflate, her momentary outburst of rage giving way to panic. Tom, please! I didn't mean… You didn't mean it? Dad's voice boomed now, echoing off the walls. You've ruined what's supposed to be the happiest day of our daughter's life. Get out! Get out of my sight! Dad's hands were trembling as he pointed toward the door. Vivian looked around, her eyes wild, seeking an ally and finding none. With nowhere left to turn, she stumbled toward the exit, her exit as dramatic as the mess she'd left behind. I felt numb, watching the woman who'd been a constant, though often cold, presence in my life being exiled by the man who had loved her. My father turned to me, his eyes softening. Ellie, I'm so sorry. I had no idea, he stammered, reaching for me. It's okay, Dad, I said, the shock giving way to an odd sense of relief. It's over now. The last of the guests had trickled away, leaving the venue in a hushed stillness that felt like the calm after a storm. Dad was off somewhere, probably dealing with the fallout of Vivian's exit, while I found myself sitting at an empty table, my wedding dress a crumpled mess of white around me. You okay? It was my sister Lara, her young face lined with worry that seemed too heavy for her years. I managed a weary smile. Yeah, I think I will be. She sat next to me, her hand finding mine. I'm sorry, Ellie, for everything Mom did. I shook my head. Not your fault, never was. There was a pause, the kind that's full of words that people are too scared to say out loud. It was Lara who finally broke it. Dad's really mad, isn't he? Yeah, I haven't seen him like that, ever. Lara bit her lip. What's going to happen now? I sighed. Divorce, I guess. It's not just about what happened today. It's been a long time coming. She nodded, understanding more than a kid her age should. And us? I squeezed her hand, a promise in my grip. We're sisters. That's not going to change. We'll stick together, okay? Okay, Lara said, a small smile breaking through. You and Jack gonna try for another wedding? I chuckled, the sound strange and distant to my own ears. I think we've had enough excitement for a while. Maybe we'll just elope. Elope? Lara's eyebrows went up. That sounds kind of fun. It does, doesn't it? The idea was growing on me. The possibility of a celebration without drama. Just Jack and me. Dad's coming, Lara said suddenly, and I looked up to see him approaching, his face worn but his eyes clear. Ellie, he said, his voice gentle. I'm so sorry. If there's anything… I stood up and hugged him, cutting off his apology. It's not your fault, Dad. We'll get through this. We stood there, the three of us in an embrace that felt like it could hold up the world if it needed to. It was the end of a wedding, sure, but it felt more like a beginning, the start of something new and hopeful. Let's go home, I said, and as we walked out together, I thought that maybe, just maybe, the worst was behind us.